Welcome to On the Porch, RVA, featuring observations on life here in the RVA, in Virginia, in America, and on this good green earth. Life is an adventure to be shared and celebrated. Now your host, Tracy Hundley.
Welcome to On the Porch RVA. I'm so happy that you found us. If you're watching the video feed, you can see that we are not actually on the porch. We are visiting with a new friend, Regina Knapp, and Regina is now my go-to as my herbal expert. And thank you, Regina. Thank you for being willing to
welcome
endure some questions.
No problem.
This is a great space. Thank you. Producer John will be putting in some still shots of the facilities that Regina has created here at Log Cabin Herbals. Did I get it right?
Log Cabin Herbals. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let me go ahead and get us rolling with one of the questions.
Okay.
And that would be, how old were you when you knew what you wanted to do when you grew up? I mean, that's assuming...
Yeah.
It's assuming a lot.
So, as a kid, I had several interests that I wanted to be, when I grow up. Because sometimes you just, come home from school and you just say, I want to do this. So, one point, I wanted to be an astronomer. Mm-hmm. I loved the stars. My father, Skylab got put up, and you could track it for so many weeks. And so my dad woke us all up and took us out at 3 or 4 in the morning with hot chocolate and jackets and stuff to try and see Skylab. And we did finally see it. So at one point I wanted to be an astronaut. At another point I wanted to be an astronomer. And then one time I wanted to be an archaeologist because I found a little fossil that was really a fossil, which ended up down the drain when I cleaned it. But it was a tracheobite. Uh-huh. And, so I had different things, and I didn't do with any of those things. So I worked at a pharmaceutical company when I went to school after I had my first 2 children, realizing that, okay, I need to make more money. So I did chemistry and biology. And
neither of your 2 initial interests led into that at all?
No. My original career was directly related to, I got to take care of these children because I was a single parent of 4 children. Mm-hmm. So...
That's
4
motivation.
girls. Yeah. So I was like, okay, I need some money. Well, let's go to school for some money. So I did that. And I did over-the-counter division of a pharmaceutical company. So we did, some of our brands were Chapstick and Robitussin and Dimetap and things like that, Centrum. So I worked on all those brands.
Big business.
Yeah, so, nothing as big as the prescription side, but it was interesting. So I did that, but my mother was a nurse, a registered nurse, and but her grandmother had taught her when she was younger. Mm-hmm. She spent a lot of summers at her grandmother's. And she had, as many grandparents did years ago, they had their own herbal gardens and their herbal medicine, you know.
Okay.
So
I had a feeling it was a family connection that had that
so
foundation
she
for
learned.
you.
So we never went to the doctor unless she couldn't take care of us. If she couldn't figure it out, then we would go to the doctor. And my mom had 6 kids, so I'm the oldest of 6. And she, chamomile tea for an upset stomach or peppermint tea, depending on what the issue was. And, she took care of all of us being the nurse and knowing those other things. So,
Right.
So over time, I realized that the over-the-counter medications are great when you wake up one day and you got a really bad flu or something and you need to get to work or you need to get through it. Those are okay. They are efficient to tamp down those symptoms, but that's what they're doing. They're not getting rid of your illness, but they're going to tamp down those symptoms so that you can get through. And I just realized that there was things out there that would, get you better quicker, So that's when I decided to start studying herbalism. So I went to the American College of Healthcare Sciences online.
I think that it's powerful. I want to pause a moment on your mother and your grandmother giving you that example of pause and think, recognize, and I think there's just so much value to that. That's a fundamental that a lot of people, if they're busy bouncing back and forth and just reacting, it's an easy to miss component of a reasonableness that you have to have when you're looking at taking care of yourself.
Yeah, it's a self-sufficiency, victory gardens and all that stuff, and the depression. My mom,
I think of my brand new garden as a victory garden.
Yeah.
I am going to get victory over all of those bugs. I'm going to get victory
there you go.
over no matter what the grocery store prices go up and down. I'm going to pray for rain, and I'm going to have a harvest. And if I have an overwhelming harvest and I'm able to bless my neighbors, or we all get together and just absolutely decimate my garden in one day, it will have served a purpose. Things have to serve a purpose.
Yeah, and then there's the canning. You can learn canning and
I've heard of that.
All of that stuff. It's real. I mean, they were self-sufficient, and the medicines, people knew what to do. It's a lost art. It's coming back, but it's amazing what nature can do. It's just really amazing. You can control your blood pressure with plants. You can do your blood sugar with plants. Just all of the things that start going wrong with people's bodies on their way to a disease. Hawthorn berries are wonderful for your heart, wonderful for your arteries. There's just so many things out there, and there's not just one. There's many.
You feel like a mechanic helping people with their maintenance?
Yeah, in a way. I think the most surprising thing to me is that, so I guess mechanics deal with people who don't take care of their cars. And sometimes when I run across someone who's having an issue, and they may not even be a client, you run into people and people will tell you their issues. Oh, I'm suffering with this, or I'm just got diagnosed with, diabetes and stuff. And when you start telling them that there are ways to correct it, you know that you can help the person. Or if I see someone in pain, it breaks my heart. And sometimes people don't want to comply, You give them an idea, you give them, a lot of times I will tell people where to get it. You don't even have to come to me, You don't have to get it from me.
Well, they're afraid you're going to tell them some bad habit that they really love, got them into a jam.
Oh, I don't know, but you tell them, here, try this. It really will help you. And people just don't want to.
I can tell you from personal experience that it is your own personal experience that once you, for instance, we got into essential oils, and lemongrass was not one of the things that we had been told was good for muscle aches. And yet, we kind of accidentally discovered that it was. And I think that was a part of my first realization that we are all unique.
Yes.
And that when something is formulated and over the counter, you're dealing with a one-size-fits-all.
Yes.
And that was a revelation to me. And I was reminded not long ago of my grandfather. He was taking care of my grandmother in her final years. And he was always... he would deal with over-the-counters, and he would like shave the edge off of, an aspirin, and he saw it as an opportunity as they were taking care of each other and a lifetime of observation, and he knew what she was sensitive to and what she would probably need a little bit more of, and that goes back to having a moment of pause and recognition, and having a reasonableness in not just having knee-jerk reactions to things. And I think that we have gotten to where in our society, I don't know if it's because so many people were raised in front of the TV and thinking in 30-second increments. I don't know how much of that is part of it, but when I came into your space, and it was just so calming, and I've seen things here. I'm going to recreate some of this in my own space, and I need to get on to my next question, because it could be really easy to stay in any one of these places. I wanted to ask you.
Troublemaker, straight up.
I wanted to ask you, what book? Come on over. Oh, hey, you must be Dreamer.
Oh, yeah, that's Dream.
What book would you want to read again for the first time, as if you had not read it before, completely, not including scriptures or Orwell's Animal Farm?
My favorite is the Mitford series by Jan Karon, and that is a wonderful series. It is about the center character is a reverend. He's a minister in his 60s in the small town of Mitford, and all the townspeople, she tells you about their characters, and she weaves them in and out, and it is wonderful. It is wonderful. And I'm so glad that she has so many of them, because, it just continues the stories of the characters. It is a universe, and it's wonderful. And he has his quirks, and he takes in this lost dog that is huge. It's some kind of hound. And he literally would stand up on his shoulder, like stand up. The dog would stand up and put his paws on his shoulders and be as tall as him. And he was so flustered, like, because he's like, I'm being attacked by this dog. And he would, out of being scared, he would just start saying scripture, and the dog would immediately sit down and sit up and listen. He would behave.
They're responding to the
scriptures.
So
this reverend guy, he's single and he's in his 60s, and he's just, he takes in this dog, and you get to meet all the different people in the town. He meets with some guys, in the town for turkey club sandwiches or whatever at the local Greasy Spoon, and a woman moves in next door that he falls in love with, and he's never been really in love, and he's in his 60s, and it's just wonderful, book after book after book.
What's the author's name again?
Jan Karon. And one of the things that I like is he likes quotes, so he's always writing down his quotes.
That sounds like it could even be educational.
Yeah. So
Okay.
he has all different quotes from all different people, and it's all woven in the books. Mm-hmm. And she actually did a book of Reverend Tim Kavanaugh's quotes.
Like
and it looks like it's supposedly his handwriting, and it's all the quotes
sweet.
of all the things he likes. And I write down quotes that I have
So
come
you
across that I
recognize-
like, and my
yeah.
daughter also does that too.
Yeah. So you recognize that as a tendency. And,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. That's nice. I have to check that out.
You'll love it. You won't be able to put it down though. But I have them all, so I can lend them to you.
I appreciate the warning. I do. I appreciate the warning. I don't spend as much time reading as I'd like. Let's see. There was yes, another question. It's kind of a two-part, and I would appreciate it if you would share with us the worst, and not for the nitty-gritty details, but
Right.
your worst day or season, and how you came out of it.
I'm sure lots of people have maybe multiples. One of my worst was when my father passed away. I considered myself my daddy's girl.
I was just going to ask.
I was the oldest.
Yeah.
But I was going through a rough time in my marriage. I was separated, and I had gone home. And I was home for a little bit, and my dad suffered from COPD from smoking. And he would always end up going to the hospital. He's on oxygen and stuff, and he'd have some kind of an attack, and they would call the ambulance, and they had it like the whole routine down. It was a routine to them. Dad's going to the thing, and it was late at night, and I hear people scuffling upstairs. I go upstairs to find out what's going on, and my mom's like, "Oh, it's okay. Like, get out of the way. We have our routine. This is we got it all down.
It's under control."
And the ambulance is here, and Dad's going to go, and I'm following in the car, and I'm going, well, I can go with you or whatever. And she's like, no, it's okay. And a feeling came over me. Mm-hmm. And they had taken him down the steps and out to the ambulance. And as I was coming up the bottom of the steps, we had a split level house. And I knew by the time I got to the top of the steps, I wouldn't see my dad again. I knew that this was it. And my mom's like, I said, so call me. When she wouldn't let me go with her, I said, well, call me when you get there. Oh, no, it's going to take hours before they get them in a room and everything. And I said, well, call me. And they left, and the house was real quiet. And I just sat next to the phone. You know, it's back when we had phones connected to the wall. And I just sat next to the phone because I knew that I was going to get a phone call that he didn't make it. And I did within
the circumstances
10 minutes.
Of how you were there, and that it was a place of closing doors in the rest of your life. Yeah, that compounded it.
Yeah. So I was grateful for those times. If it wasn't for my separation and all the times I was doing with my first husband, I wouldn't have been there to spend some time with my dad as much as I got to. But I knew it. It was a very sure, you know her. I knew it. And that was a rough time for me, was going through losing my dad and not getting to say the last things that I would want to say, things like that. And that has been a theme. So from that time, one of my uncles had gotten sick, and we knew he was never going to get real better. And when we went, it was always, I know that because I lived here and that was up in Pennsylvania, I knew that this would be my last visit. And what is it I want to say to that person?
You're not putting anything off anymore, are you? It's always that moment of...
In a way it is, but a lot of times, especially like with my uncle, I didn't know what to say. And, I told him I loved him and things like that. But just that, when you think...
People don't have that as their routine, though.
Yeah.
We get into the routines where everything is by rote and by pattern and by habit. And
I try and make my relationships, my moments count.
Yeah.
My favorite thing in the whole world is when all my daughters are in my house and they all are talking together. It's late at night and I'm like, okay, I'm going to see you tomorrow. And I can hear from my room, they're all giggling and laughing.
You're doing a little mental snapshot, aren't you?
Yeah. So those are my favorite things, is hearing all their voices together and them being silly or whatever together.
And having that time with your dad. When you were talking about going in the backyard and having the cocoa and looking up into the sky.
Yeah.
We did that too.
Yeah. You went into Fine Skylab?
Well, we're about the same age, and I can remember the moon landing and everybody being up, and then my grandfather living out in the middle of nowhere, Texas, and having a telescope in his backyard.
Oh, nice.
And
we didn't have a telescope.
He didn't necessarily trust us with his telescope. But being out in the backyard and sitting in the lounge chairs with the hot chocolate.
Yep.
And looking up into the sky. And we were not too far from DFW, Dallas-Fort Worth Airport.
Oh, okay.
And so, of course, in those days it was Love Field probably. But, the sky was very busy, and we were convinced that we were seeing alien invasions and everything else.
Yeah.
And he took part in that fun. And there were snapshots in your mind, snapshots in your heart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some of my favorite things go back to my dad. He always would make a snack when he couldn't think of what he wanted to eat. It would be saltine crackers crushed in a bowl with milk poured over it. It's one of my favorites. It's one of my, and he would have these food things, and he would tell me that this is good, and I'd be like, really? And he'd go, you have to try it.
Oh, that's so gross.
So I would try it, and I would love it. I mean, a lot of things.
You were a daddy's girl.
So I will, when I can't think of something that I want to eat, I will throw saltine crackers in a bowl with some milk, and I will eat it. It's great. It's really good. You'll have to try it. You have to try it. You might get hooked.
I guess I'll have to try it.
One of my other favorite things is when it snows, I like to play in the snow at night. And that was from my dad had like a string of time where he had to work overtime. And then granted, in the winter it gets dark at 5. So, it may not have been that late. But I remember that there was a winter when he came home and he had bought me a sled, and it was the fastest sled in the neighborhood. And I waited he told me he was going to take me sledding. So, I held him to it, and he took me out, and there was no one around. And here we are at night, and it's so white out, the moon's out. Yeah. You can see fine. You don't need any lights. And he pulled me up and down the street. That's before they scraped everything away, and we got to... Yeah. I remember that. And to this, all through my children's childhoods, I took them out at night in the snow. That's when we went. We went out when it was falling and it was quiet and you could hear it coming down. And that's when we played in the snow.
And just the light reflecting off of the snow. It's so bright.
Yeah. So those are some of the things.
We highly recommend that. Now, I realize that you may not be where you have a lot of snow, but I can definitely relate to that. Yeah. Relate to that experience.
Yep. Yeah. That's my favorite. If it snows, a lot of times it snows at night. It's snowing overnight, and that's what I'll wait for that, and then I'll go walking in the snow and
Don't collect snow for snow ice cream at night. Just saying. Just saying.
Yeah.
Oh, goodness, this has been so enjoyable. And I will tell you that there's going to be a lot of information in the show notes on Log Cabin Herbals. Did you want to explain the name, Log Cabin Herbals?
So herbalism, it's old tradition. It's been around for thousands of years in every continent of the world. And I just wanted that feel, the old-fashioned feel. I wanted that old-fashioned throwback. So I thought of log cabins. I like log cabins. I love the shape. Someday I want one. And so I live in the woods now, and my house is dark brown, and it's about as close as to a cabin that that's not a cabin can get. So
it has that homey feeling.
Yeah, so I wanted that feel to it.
Yeah.
So I thought of Log Cabin Herbals.
It makes it memorable. Log Cabin Herbals. There'll be information in the show notes, and there was something else I was going to mention that I don't remember what it was. I do apologize for that. Thank you so much.
Thank you for coming. I appreciate you coming and
as I said, there's going to be some pictures of some of the amenities in the log cabin.
I have a sound chair.
Lots of information.
It's not only remedies. It's not only herbal remedies. Yeah.
We're going to be checking out the sound chair.
Yes.
But thank you. And
Yeah.
thank you.
Yes,
Thank you for joining us here on the porch. And have a wonderful day. And get out. Meet somebody. Thanks. Bye.
On the Porch is produced and directed by John Hundley IV. Your executive producer is Tracy L. Hundley, and your host is Tracy Hundley. Video of these episodes is on YouTube and Rumble. Email us at tomatlh@outlook.com. On the Porch is a 2025 T.O.M.A Studios production.